thing was asked. So in any case, since I didn't want the job, I also came out. And he did say that please tell your placement office that you're okay with this offer. Obviously, I'm not going to say that. So I just went back to my hostel room. And 2 days later was when this rejection from Shawalus came. And I had no choice but to go and accept the R.K. Swamy offer. Okay, a lot of hesitation, because after you do, you major in marketing, what you look for is a job in marketing. You can compromise a bit and say, okay, I'll look at sales. In those days, sales was quite an important function. But anything other than marketing and sales, you would rather not look at. See, if it was marketing and Hindustan Liver, there's nothing better you could have asked for. Okay, otherwise marketing at some other multinational. If that is not there, sales at some other multinational. So that was the stage at which I was, and I was more than happy with the dream offer. And now I was forced to take this offer only because I had no choice, right? But the redeeming feature was that it was a Chennai job, a Madras job. Okay, next slide, Ranjit. See, the exams normally happen in March end or so there, and the results come out in May. But I don't know, the confidence of the recruiter and the institutes were so high in those days that you could actually join your job even before the results were out. Nobody asked you. Till now, nobody has asked me for my certificate, either my BTech or my PGDM certificate. Nobody used to ask in those days. I came to Chennai, and actually they paid my airfare from Calcutta, which is a big thing for me. And I joined on April 14, 1977. But please note the date, April 14, 1977. Now, this was a Tamil New Year's Day. The whole of Tamil Nadu had a holiday, and people are sitting back, relaxed at home. R.K. Swamy was working. R.K. Swamy strongly believed that if on the first day of the year you didn't work, rest of the year you will not be able to work. Now, he believed it, but then he was the head of the company, he was a boss, so he could put it into practice and made all of us come on that day. Now here I must tell you a little bit more about Mr. R.K. Swamy. I don't know how many of you have heard of him, but if you have heard of the advertising agency today, which is called BBDO, I think it's called R.K. Swamy BBDO, I'm not sure, but BBDO is more well known. BBDO is one of the largest advertising agencies worldwide. Now, R.K. Swamy in those days was without the BBDO. Mr. Swamy was the head of what is now called JWT, which in those days was called Hindustan Thompson Associates in Chennai. He was a manager. Now, manager is the head as far as an advertising agency branch is concerned. I will have a small little anecdote for this also, maybe a couple of minutes later. As far as R.K. Swamy is, Mr. R.K. Swamy is concerned, he was a very simple man, God-fearing man. Now, the only reason, he was a very, very strong advertising person, very knowledgeable, very could speak very well, could convince people, could present very well. All the qualities you needed for an advertising professional he had. The only problem was he wouldn't serve meat at home. And in JWT in those days, entertaining at home was very, very common. And unfortunately for him, when he entertained at home, it would be without meat. As a matter of fact, there is even a rumor which said that he would allow wine. So normally white wine is paired with white meat, and red wine is paired with red meat. So he would pair red wine with sambar sadam and white wine with tair sadam. That's what people used to say. Whatever be the reason, perhaps this is one of the reasons that he was overlooked to head HTA or JWT in India when his turn came. So in a huff, he left and started RK Swami's. Now the salary at RK Swami's when I joined was 1,000 rupees. Okay. Now you might say, what is 1,000 rupees? Is it per day, per minute, per second? What? No, it is per month. And the designation I got was trainee client servicing. More about that later. Yeah, can we move on? Like after I joined RK Swami's, I visited my grandmother like a good boy, and my grandmother had only one word to ask. No, why? What happened? So I said, why? What happened? See, to her, a job was with a British company. Okay, so if it had been Paris or any one of those, very famous British companies and still present at that time in Chennai, she'd have been very happy. Then, at least if it is not a British company, at least an Indian company, which is a very well-known company. For example, in most of our among my relatives, a job with TVS was supposed to be something great. So she even asked me, why TVS also you couldn't get a job? I said, no, you see, but then this is very good. He said, okay, what is it? Now, what is it that you do? Well, it's very difficult to explain what a client servicing person does. But if I tell you that story, the entire 10 minutes will go. So perhaps you'll have to imagine. All I can say is at the end of it, I came out as if feeling as if I had done a great mistake. But my grandmother said, doesn't matter. At least it's one, in her words, it's a Brahmin company you've joined. So at least that's the best I suppose we could hope for. So with that very encouraging words, I came out of her house. Next slide, please. Swami's, was not like very many other agencies of that time. We had serious-minded, serious-looking hard workers. Even the secretaries were male. There were no female secretaries. Can you imagine an advertising agency which is supposed to be the hotbed of fashion and glamour? Now, as a matter of fact, there was once a set of batchmates of mine who visited me. They were working in Coal India, and which is a very dirty kind of a place, public sector place. So they thought when they come to RK Swami's and meet me, they want to see one big thing over there. And the first question was, where's Orji? Because in their mind, advertising meant you will see half-clad, in leopard skin models nesting on the laps of art directors, photographers with ponytails and calling each other dearie. Now, this is a kind of imagery that very many people had about advertising, and perhaps even now some people have. Next slide, please. But in Swami's, it was all very, very serious-minded. As a matter of fact, Swami's strength was in analysis and industrial products. And that's the reason why he even took people like me with engineering background, thinking that an industrial product manufacturer will feel a lot more comfortable dealing with an engineer. Perhaps it's true, and in very many cases it has proved to be useful. The first job I got was detergent bar, which was to be promoted during some festival season. And the offer was you buy 2 cakes of the bar and you get 1 mug free. Now, when I went to the writer, she was one of those hoity-toity females who came up with a long list of questions and then asked me to give a 10-page brief. I said, this is where all that I learned in marketing will come to my use, and I put down a 10-page brief. She didn't even look at it. She said, I've already done the ad, and she came back with a brilliant line, buy 2 cakes and get 1 soap dish free, or no, get 1 mug free. And this is an exact copy of the previous year, which said buy 2 cakes and get 1 soap dish free. So thus started my marketing knowledge utilization in RK Swami's. But I must say there are a lot of creative sparks. There's a studio manager who, the moment you walk near him, will throw his cigarette down into throw his cigarette pack into the waste paper basket, and then say, "Oh, I didn't know you're coming. I just threw my pack down." I used to smoke in those days. And then after everyone, this person goes off, he'll pick up the pack, which will still have few sticks inside, and put it back in his pocket. And there was films used to be shot, cinemas used to be shot in R.K. Swami's in those days. I still remember when one young actress asked an artist, a very junior artist, what do you do? This chap very solemnly asked her, do you read the Hindu? The model said, yes, I do. I have to say it in Tamil. Any of you don't understand, I'll try and translate. நாளைக்கு என்ன விளம்பரம் போடணும்னு எங்கிட்ட கேட்டு தான் ஹிந்துல போடுவாங்க. That is, Hindus ads which will appear in the ad in the Hindu tomorrow, the ads will be only after my clearance, and you could see the kind of stars that star had in her eyes at that time, and so on and so forth. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. Next slide, please. We had brilliant people there, both in client servicing and in creative. A lot of history-making ads, which are spoken about even today in our country, have been made by R.K. Swami's in those days, because they were seen as a public sector agency. Public sectors never used to advertise in those days, even if they did on the Independence Day or Republic Day, say, telling the nation how grateful they are and how great job they are doing. R.K. Swami's is the one who brought them into the culture of advertising, with which all of them have really benefited. Okay. Now, spellings, how important they are, I learned it the hard way. At the end of each of these public sector advertisements, there used to be one line which will say a public sector undertaking. Now, one of the advertisements under HMT, which I had supposed to have checked, for some reason or the other, in the word public, the L was missing. So you can imagine the kind of furor that it created. Fortunately, nobody noticed it, but let me assure you, I had sleepless nights for at least 4 days before I felt reassured that nobody is going to notice it any longer. Punctuations, for example, this was a famous thing which happened. The communication was, don't stop now. But for some strange reason, that apostrophe on top of N had shifted down to next to T. So it had become don't stop now, which means stop whatever you're doing now, right? This was again where I was involved. For some reason or other, we escaped. Otherwise, advertising would have lost one person on that day. And then, of course, the constant fights with the media department and clients and so on and so forth, they're always there. Next slide, please. Ranjit, next slide, please. Actually, the agency was respected in those days. Today, it's a dog's world. It's just money, money, money. Who gives a better discount gets the job today. In those days, a client servicing person, his influence was very high. The client really used to believe him, trust him, respect him. Now, even for media reps, the client servicing was, their opinions were sought. And in those days, media reps were essentially old men, very pavam-looking guys, and they'll come and tell you, something. I need just 1 page to complete my target. Without that, they won't give me my bonus this year. Please do something. And as you could sway it with the client, you would say, okay, don't worry, I'll make sure that 1 page goes to you this month. And that's the way the client servicing people used to act. But today, you have young ladies coming in, showing a lot of figures, theirs and calculations to convince you, yes, probably they're doing a good job, but let me assure you, I really miss those days when you thought you were doing a favor to the media reps, and the media reps thought you accepted that you were doing a favor and you came out as king when you approved a media plan. Next slide, please. Just one more point. See, designations in advertising, as I told you earlier, can be very, very misleading. You start as an executive, and then you move on to a supervisor, Then you move on to an account director. Then you move on to a manager. My manager is the topmost. Now, my father, who used to be in government service, one of his colleagues who had retired along with him, met him, and then they were exchanging notes, and he asked my father, "What's your son doing?" My father said he is now an account supervisor in HTA in Bangalore. So there was a silence, and then that man said, "Oh, I see. Okay, why? What happened?" No, no, my son, he's just joined and he's already an executive. Meaning thereby that supervisor, after so many years, your son is still a supervisor. Same thing happened. The For a foreign trip approval, my first official foreign trip, paid for by the office or paid for by the client. In that, the manager who had to accompany us, uh, the government insisted that his travel form be approved by me, who was an account director. And when he had approved mine, they rejected it, saying, "How can a mere manager approve a director's, travel application?" And then this was to Hanover. We had a very nice time there, including a fantastic time in Hamburg. Okay, this Yaradi Moini is one movie many of you would have seen, where where there is Nayantara is there, and the people who go along with her ask, if we don't go and see a cabaret show, we won't be able to live a full life, kind of a thing. And so we also went to Hamburg, which is the hotbed of nightlife. When Hamburg was a different story. Next slide, please. We had good fun over there. We had kind of, this is the same slide, Ranjit. Okay. Then there are several things about client meetings and all. No, I don't think I should bore you so much. But in everything I enjoyed myself, I'll just tell you one, which was the public sector. You spend a lot of time preparing for it. You spend at least 15 days. And once you go there, they tell you, you got 10 minutes to present. 5 minutes about yourself and 5 minutes about what you can do for us. So that entire presentation of 15 days, which ran into some 80 slides, you have to condense into 10 minutes. So at the end of it, you didn't know what was happening, they didn't know what was happening. And there's a standard procedure in all of them. Next slide, please. Hopefully that's the last one. Yeah. Now, one client which I can never forget was in Calcutta, Boria Cotton Mills, when I was an account director. And our boss, a very well-known name in advertising, he passed away, Mr. Subhash Ghoshal. Now, we were sick and tired of a client because the client was always finding fault with us. So we told him that we're going to sack this client. So Mr. Ghoshal said, "Are you sure you don't want him?" We said, "Yes, Mr. Ghoshal, we don't want him." Then he said, "I also haven't had fun for a long time. Let me come along with you." Now, this client was across the Hooghly. We had to go in a boat. We went and we met him. And then the client, as soon as we went, he started off, "Yeah, your team has not done this, all this to Mr. Ghoshal." Mr. Ghoshal listened to him. And then he just said one thing, said, "Mr. Gupta," that was his name, was Amarwadi. "Mr. Gupta, I now quite understand that you have lost all respect for the agency. Now, I would like us to part as friends before the agency loses all respect in you." The client didn't know what struck him. And we walked out. Mr. Ghoshal led the way and we walked out. He came running behind us, pulled Mr. Ghoshal back, and he said, "I'm extremely sorry. I never looked at it this way. Let's restart our relationship all over again." And we did. So now if I continue any longer, Ranjit or no Ranjit, I think all of you will start throwing virtual stones on me. So I'll stop here. I hope I didn't bore you too much. And with my apologies again for spoiling your Sunday morning, I'm signing off now. Any questions? I'm sure there won't be any, but it's up to you.
Thank you so much for the beautiful session, sir. And today we had a beautiful and warm thing that not only about your life, the things which you have enjoyed in your life made our day actually. And I don't know how far these people have been used to advertisements and the agencies. Even in my career beginning, I was from an agency background. So
Oh,
I used to work with eyeball long back. So I used to take care of ATL, BTL, and events at that point in time. So
okay. Yeah.
I used to handle so very premium luxury clients I handle. So I know what are the topics which you spoke. So it was very very nice and remembering my old days also. So thank you so much for
That's nice of you. Thank you.
yes sir. So can we go on to the question answer session sir directly?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yes, guys, you can start posting your questions in the chat box. I will ask on behalf of you to sir, and I'll get the answer for you. Okay, and I know you people are very very interested to post many questions, but I'll be asking very so picky questions. So like I'll not ask the entire questions. So we'll have only 10 questions. So start posting your questions, please. So in the meantime, I would like to have a word with you. Like, can you tell me something about some moments or some memories about some one very great client and one very very bad client which you had in your life, sir?
Oh, yes, I can. Uh, okay, I'll tell you one which was a very funny moment, and then I'll tell you about a bad client also. See, Tamil Nadu State AIDS Control Society, TANSACS, was one client which almost every agency in Chennai wanted because you had a very healthy relationship there. They will say they will give you a job which is worth 1 lakh. You will have to bill them 2 lakhs. You keep 50,000, and you have to pass back 50,000 to them. Very clear, clean deal it was. No questions asked. You put any crap, they'll take it. There was no problem. But the agency selection was a process they had to go through. So all of us went through, and if you had any recommendation, you try to use it. So we also tried one through a minister. Couple of days later, I was called by the minister's PA. I went to his office, and then the PA said something to the minister, whispered something to him. Then the minister said, "You sit inside." He sent me to an anteroom. I sat over there. And then after I reached there, after he came back, after all the meeting, all the others, he asked me, "How did it happen? When did it happen?" So I didn't know what he was talking about. So I said, "புரியல சார்." "இல்ல இல்ல உங்களுக்கு AIDS எப்படி வந்தது?" Because he thought whatever he got as communication from his PA was that I was also an AIDS patient. So he thought he'll get major PR value by taking my support and generally get one image built for him. So that was one of the funny experiences I had. Bad clients I've had several people who have said I don't know anything. In the heat of the moment, I've also said you don't know anything. So both of us came out realizing each other's ignorance. But there have been occasions when some clients have actually got back to me saying that though I didn't agree with you on that day, today I feel in retrospect what you said was right. I still remember we were handling the same detergent bar I was talking about. This was in Calcutta. When I was in Calcutta, we were handling it for Detergents India there. When I had made a presentation on behalf of the agency, when I had said, introduce specks of different color in your detergent powder and tell people this is the active ingredient and they can see it for themselves. This was in 1970, 1980, 1982 or so, 82, 83, thereabouts. They said, no, it cannot be done. Technically, it is not possible. Then I said, okay, leave it. And then I find 5 years later, most detergents have started putting the colored specks, which people identify with some active ingredient. So I do feel, and the same client did call me back and say, I wish I'd taken your advice at that time. I probably would have been, slightly better off than now.
Yes, sir. And one more question we would like to understand. Since you are from the advertising industry, and you would have seen advertising from radio, jingles, newspaper ads, magazine ads, the evolution has even changed into the digital television ads, and now it has turned into a massive way into Facebook ads. even into Instagram ads right away. How do you see this transformation of ads, sir?
Uh, See, I'll put it this way. It's like technology which grows, communication also tries to keep pace with it. See, one thing is that every advertiser wants to communicate more at a lesser cost. All the new evolution, if you see, have all been towards it. I want to communicate better and I want to communicate at a lesser cost. Television becomes one option for me. Television becomes one option for me. Then radio, when it came in before television, it was opening up an absolutely new medium which never existed. People could only read in a newspaper. Now, radio you could hear. You could do multitasking. While you are cooking, you can listen to the radio. While you are doing something else, you can listen to the radio. All that people found very helpful in terms of communicating. Now, in digital medium, one of the biggest strengths today is that in any case, more and more people are spending more and more time online. So, if you can catch them at that time, then it seems to make a lot of sense. And all said and done, even today, the digital medium is less expensive in terms of per reach compared to all the conventional medium. But I do not see a situation where the conventional medium vanishes totally. It will remain, as it has happened abroad, where with the best of technology, even newspapers have started rebounding, and so have radio in a lot of these so-called advanced nations. But I do think for the next 10 years or so, digital communication will rule the roost. But later, I think it will start plateauing a bit and allow the conventional advertising also to grow.
Thank you so much, sir. And last question from my side. And sir, tell me one brand that admired or you loved the most or you got inspired from their advertisements. Tell me one brand's advertisement, sir.
One brand which is, oh, that way. No, I love the Idea cell phone. The cellular services, Idea cellular services phone, which Amitabh Bachchan and then Abhishek Bachchan, both of them did. Brilliant. Didn't do anything great for the brand, honestly. But think in terms of memorability, recall, it matches that of Feviquick, which again nobody can forget. And in both these, as I keep telling people, humor is what made the difference. A serious ad can never get the kind of recall and memorability that a humorous ad can.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. But as far as ad is concerned, I got inspired from this Amul's ad because every day, whatever happening, they have to come out with a new concept and they post it
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hindu and other newspapers. And I love to see their because every day to create a concept, you need to have a big creative team to do it. And every day with whatever is happening in the newspaper, actually, we don't even need to read the headlines. We can directly go to the Amul's ad where we can see the things, and it's really inspiring, sir. So let us go to the students' questions, sir. First question
Yeah,
is
sure.
from Mr. Hari. Hi, sir. Thank you for sharing your experience. The term advertising encompasses a lot of things. How would you compare advertising today to what it was like 10 years ago?
Well, honestly, the principles of advertising has not changed, nor will it ever change. The principle of advertising remains the same. It is to build a favorable disposition towards your brand compared to competing brands in the target's mind. Advertising did that 10 years back, advertising does that even today. But the modalities have changed, the medium has changed, but advertising per se has not changed, is what I strongly believe.
Yes, sir. And by the way, Hari is also a mechanical engineer and he is from Anna University, sir, directly.
Welcome to the gang.
Thank you. Then next question is from Mr. Kishore. Thank you so much for your words, sir. My question is, why Facebook is not advertised anywhere, but it has a huge customer base? How come they can make this happen, sir?
Yeah, how it has happened is the users of Facebook have advertised it. That is the issue. Now, that's the best advertisement you can have. For that matter, there are small brands, or at least small brands which were never advertised, but which became big and then started advertising. Like if you take Lijjat Papad, for example, it was only word to mouth, which actually the word of mouth which helped them grow. Then they started advertising. But if your customer is so happy with you, if your user is so happy with you that he talks good of you to everyone else, automatically your growth is much, much faster. Facebook has started advertising now, which they never did earlier, you're right. But for that matter, even Google never used to advertise earlier, Google Words. Now they started advertising. Now, when there is a monopoly, there is no need to advertise. When competition sets in, you have to advertise. Now, with so many other vehicles also available, each of these vehicles will have to start advertising in some way. But the biggest reason is when you are the only guy around for that and people are fond of you, you don't need any advertising.
Thank you, sir. And next question is from Mr. Vijay Kumar. Hi, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And I have a question for you. Sir, why Western country brands are so famous and so more luxurious?
So more
Luxurious.
luxurious, okay? Why are they luxurious? Yeah, because there people have more money to spend, as simple as that. If see, getting a luxury brand in India is not a problem at all. But the quantity that you can sell over here can never justify the efforts that you will put in. That's the reason. But in terms of advertising, believe me, many of these brands, the so-called luxury brands outside India, the advertising, a lot of it is created by Indians and many of them in India. And it has traveled from here to there.
Thank you so
Many
much.
of the global brands, the advertising base is from India. Because one, our people are relatively more intelligent, and two, we come very cheap. We don't charge much.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And next question is from Kirtana. Hi, sir. Do you think where this advertisements plays a or should play a major role, either promoting a brand or promoting a product?
It depends on what stage the manufacturer is. See, if the manufacturer has reached what we call, um, a stage when it is fully saturated, meaning for him, any new customer has to come only from new users of the product. He has to advertise product. That is, do what we call generic advertising. But if the product is not, the market is not saturated with the product, and there are other brands who have a bigger share than him, then he should continue with brand advertising.
Thank you so much, sir. Next question is Ms. Kavya Jawar has asked, hi, sir. You were in engineering background. At the beginning, you moved into the advertising. How difficult it was for you to convert yourself from engineering to advertising?
No, I don't think you need any great conversion as far as advertising is concerned. See, for example, we run this course in the Ad Club Madras, Advertising Club Madras, which is a short-term course on advertising management. And what we tell people is that all you need in advertising is condensed experience. You either get it from books or you get it from people. So if people who are advertising professionals come and talk to you, for a couple of sessions, what you will learn in advertising is much more than what you would learn once you are here for some time. And advertising is a way of life. See, you and I are, on the one hand, advertisers and also consumers. Like I am a consumer of what I advertise. So it's not very difficult for me to think like a consumer and come up with advertising. So advertising, I would say, when you come into advertising, engineering becomes a base science from which you use bits and pieces for various tools in advertising. Otherwise, to expect yourself to to put into practice all that you have learned over 5 years uh, during engineering is not practical as far as advertising is concerned. But it's not difficult to move from any field for that matter. We've got people who are lawyers in advertising. We've got people who've been doctors. We've got people who've been plumbers. All kinds of people have come in and done a great job in advertising.
Yes, sir. So next question is from Mr. Gokul. Sir, what is your view on advertising service? On which medium it is so effective? Either it is in a direct medium or it is in an indirect medium.
Very difficult question because it depends on the kind of service and the kind of target you have. Now, if it's a service which is going to be used by millions and millions of people, and everyone in the family is likely to have some influence in the choice of the brand for that service, then I would still say television is one of the best medium. But if it is very, very limited, the target, and very, the very, let's say, clear experts are the ones to decide on it, then perhaps using a direct medium, which will go to them, will be a lot more efficient. So it depends on the kind of service you're talking about and the number of people who are likely to buy or influence the purchase of the product.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And next question is, thank you, sir, for your beautiful session. Uh, as far as your experience is concerned, how do you manage to uptake the technology? Because in your generation, the world has turned upside down towards digital. How do you handle it?
You're telling me? Uh, well, very frankly, I've taken a very intelligent route. Most of the technology, I leave it to my colleagues, my junior colleagues. So they do all the technology business. And you saw how much I had to struggle before getting into this session also. So when there is something which is too complicated, I don't want to restart learning. I think that learning takes a much longer time. But yes, I can operate a computer, which I could never do, of course, in the earlier days. And I can speak a little bit of digital language to people, which I've forced myself to learn. But there stops my technical capability in terms of advancements which have taken place. But yes, you can always find experts who will do it for you. You don't have to know everything. You'll never be successful that way.
Yes, sir. So next question is, sir, there is a myth called long sentence ads will not work, will not sell your product. What is your opinion about it, sir?
I would like to repeat what Mr. Subhash Ghoshal, my guru, used to say. The, the copy in an advertisement must be as long as it should be. What he meant was that when your headline tells the story, don't waste time of people trying to explain the headline in your body copy. But if there is somebody who wants some more information, don't force that guy to go to several other sources to get that information. All the information he seeks should be available within that particular communication. So, as a matter of fact, if you Google and see, there have been ads on why copy should be long in ads. People have created. Ogilvy has created advertisements saying why David Ogilvy, why advertising copy should be long, because only then people will get what they want. But yes, there are people who are not looking for more information. Don't bore them with more information. But there is no strict rule which says long will work, short will not work. Short will gain attention, but whether it will get you sales, I have my doubt.
Yes, sir. And last three questions, sir. How to advertise to buy an offer letter or to my followers in social media to buy my product? How to get their attention?
Sorry, say that again. I couldn't get it.
How to get my followers' attention to get more followers in online for my product?
Oh, that requires a separate session. You're trying to get free consultancy. It's a big subject by itself. And again, it depends on what is the topic that you're talking about. In some topics, it's easy to get followers. You just, very simply if you bring out something which is talking ill of somebody, you'll get followers immediately. Everyone will say, yeah, I also know that person is like this, this person is like that. Talk good about somebody, you may not get followers immediately. If it's a new idea, if it's a workable idea, you'll get followers immediately. But if it is not, it's not going to be easy. But then there are several tools which are available to suggest what can be done, what cannot be done. But if you expect me to give an answer to it, honestly, I don't think I'm capable of answering that question. It's not so simple. It's very complicated. Even if I were to answer, it'll be a separate session by itself.
Sure, sir. Sure. Sir, I've got a question with 2-3 people have asked the same question. So together I'm asking it, sir. For example, what happens, sir? Why do we need to have a brand ambassador with us? So, and what happens if something happens to a brand ambassador if he's into a scandal or into a problem? What happens to a brand in stake? For example, like Tiger Woods, Accenture, and many other brands like this. So, is this brand ambassador very much important?
Not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, more and more people are learning it the hard way. As a matter of fact, now the latest amendment, which is going to come in or has already come in, I'm not sure, in the Consumer Protection Act is that if somebody has endorsed a brand and that brand has not stood up to the promise that it has made, the endorser can also be penalized. The endorser a case can be filed against the endorser also. So I expect that this brand ambassador and brand endorsers will start going down. That's one. Brands, the celebrities as your brand ambassadors, they can gain attention. Like there are people who will say, that shooting for which, Amitabh Bachchan came. Ask him which shooting. No, that shooting, I'm not able to remember the brand name, but for which Amitabh Bachchan came. So what happens is when the celebrity is so overpowering, he or she overpowers the brand. So people tend to recall the celebrity rather than the brand itself. Thirdly, for a small brand, it's impossible because the cost of getting the celebrity is so high. For a large brand, it's unnecessary because even without that celebrity, you will enjoy as much recall. So sum total, I would say that unless there are compelling reasons for you to gain immediate attention of people, try and avoid celebrity usage in advertising.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I'd like to add a point here. And Red Bull, still they don't have an ambassador for them, sir.
Yeah.
Red Bull will never have an ambassador for them, and they focus only their brand. And last question, sir, which I would like to ask.
Sorry, one minute before that, and I would also like to add, for example, Lux, if you take, almost everyone you can imagine has been either the endorser or the brand ambassador for Lux. Every film star, right? But is that adding to Lux? Lux by itself enjoys so much of recall that if you say, do you know, which brand X star endorsed, chances are people will say Lux, and 90% of the time they'll be right. So to that extent, the usage and the efficacy of using a celebrity is also going down on very well-known brands. Sorry, Ranjit, you were saying something.
Yes, sir. Almost we are on the last question. So Ramakrishna has asked a question, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your past, sir. What is your gain from R.K. Swamy, sir? Can you say it in few words that that could inspire me for my betterment in my future?
Okay, I'll tell you. I owe everything that I know in advertising to R.K. Swamy's. I meant to cover that portion, but since we were short of time, I didn't. Their training is one of the best that you can get in India today. As a matter of fact, as part of my training, I had to take a cycle and go and deliver stuff in a newspaper house. And this, according to R.K. Swamy, is because later, when there were people under me who would do this job, they can't take me for a ride because I'll know exactly how much time it takes, what are the problems, what are the challenges, and they cannot fool me. So anything and everything you expect somebody else to do later in life, in your professional life, at R.K. Swamy's, We all learnt it when we were trainees. The 6 month training with at least 2 weeks in each of the departments. So everything I owe, I would say, is from R.K. Swamy. I still call R.K. Swamy's the training ground or the University of Advertising in Chennai. Anyone who is anything in advertising today at some point or the other would have passed through R.K. Swamy's.
True words, sir. True words. Thank you so much, sir. And that's all, sir. We have done with the question and answer session. And few words about ISSM Leadership Lab. That's our students, sir. And how
Sure.
did you enjoy this session?
I loved it. I loved it. Except that, in sessions like this, interaction was a little difficult. Otherwise, yes, you can have a lot more, useful questions and answers and constant interaction and reactions and things like that. But I understand it's not so easy.
Few words about ISSM and Leadership Lab, sir.
Well, see, this is the second time I'm addressing your students. I'd come about a year back. Again, it was on your invitation and Bhargavi's invitation. One, I'm amazed at your, student strength. I don't know how you people manage to get, because everyone seems to be suffering on that. I teach in SSM College of Management. I take the advertising module in that. There we have, I think this year we have about 50 students or so who have taken advertising as one, elective subject over there. But that director was telling me that most management schools are finding it extremely difficult to get students, because students themselves are not very sure as to when all this will end and when they will know something about their future and so on and so forth. But I think you people are doing a great job, and I like your idea of calling different people to share their experience. From my Rotary Club itself, I think we've had 2 or 3 people till now, and all very good speakers and experts in their own field. And I wish all the students the very best, and I'm sure that you'll grow from strength to strength, and I'm waiting to see you in a large campus of your own very soon.
Thank you so much, sir. And we are not just going to leave you, and Brand War is again heading up for this year. So we'd like to have you as a chief guest, sir, once again for the Brand War. And definitely we'd like to have you at our campus for another beautiful day for a different topic. And we'd like to have your guest lecture once again, sir.
Certainly.
Yes, I'd like to call upon Ms. Lavanya for delivering the vote of thanks from first year MBA 2020 batch.
Okay.
Thank you, Ranjit sir. Good afternoon to one and all present here. What a power-packed leadership lab it is. I really got electrified today. I should thank our beloved students and respected chief guest, Mr. Jagannath Ramaswamy, and our chairman, sir, Mr. Karthik Ganapathiappan, Director Ma'am Dr. Pargali, and Director Rahul sir for making this day as an unforgettable day. It's an honor and privilege for me to propose the oath of thanks. On behalf of ISSM Business School and the entire fraternity, I would like to thank our chief guest for making this day a colorful one. The information and knowledge shared by our guest is really valuable and thought provider. Sir, your wide experience in this advertising field had made all our day. I would like to thank you once again, sir, for the beautiful session with our students. It is really a great honor and pleasure to have a session like this. Last but not least, I should thank the students of ISSM family for making this session a great success. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Lavanya, for the beautiful word of thanks, and thank you so much for the beautiful session and your times. And even on your Sunday, you've spent most of the time with us for this energizing meet. And we'll never forget this leadership lab with you, sir. And once again, we'd like to thank you on behalf of our management, our students, and the faculties, and from the student side once again. Thank you so much for the beautiful session, sir. We'd like to have you once again in our campus, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.